When it comes to business travel in Orlando, it's never business as usual. Sure, I could go on for days about all the incredible places to hold meetings, or the Michelin dining, or the breadth of industries that call it home. But when it's time for your business to make the extraordinary happen, Albert Monero of Limitless Solutions said it best. Orlando is an incredible place for innovation. So dive in and see what's happening in Orlando, where the possibilities for business travel are unbelievably real. Learn more at orlandoforbusiness.com.
This is LBC News.
Just gone 20 minutes after 5. So then Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says they are at war and will win after Hamas fired a barrage of rockets from Gaza into Israel this morning. Hamas commanders say the attacks are targeted at enemy positions, while the action has prompted condemnation from a range of international nations, including the UK. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, among those to react, saying, "I'm shocked by this morning's attacks by Hamas terrorists against Israeli citizens. Israel has an absolute right to defend itself." Let's get the view now from the US. LBC News Washington correspondent Simon Marks joins me now. Simon, what's the reaction from the White House?
Well, there is every indication, David, that the White House was caught completely flat-footed by all of these developments, and it's taken a while for them to begin communicating. The first statement we got came 4 hours ago from the National Security Council spokesperson Adrienne Watson. She wrote that the United States unequivocally condemns the unprovoked attacks by Hamas against Israeli civilians. She calls them Hamas terrorists. There is never any justification for terrorism. We stand firmly with the government and people of Israel and extend our condolences for the Israeli lives lost in these attacks. Then, as the day got underway at the White House, the press office issued a statement saying that senior national security officials briefed the president this morning on the appalling Hamas terrorist attacks in Israel. The president will continue to receive updates, and White House officials remain in close contact with Israeli partners. Now, what's interesting about that statement is that it suggests that at no point was President Biden woken during the night to be told of what was taking place in Israel. Like the rest of us, he found out when he woke up this morning, certainly judging from that statement put out by the White House just a couple of hours ago. And now we're being told that the president has spoken to Prime Minister Netanyahu. They spoke this morning, and the president, in a statement of his own, said the United States unequivocally condemns this appalling assault, and I made clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that we stand ready to offer all appropriate means of support to the government and people of Israel. He concludes, my administration's support for Israeli security is rock solid and unwavering. Now, no great surprise, of course, in an American president adopting that stance. I think there will be questions about whether President Biden should perhaps have been alerted to this crisis earlier. Should he have been woken up in the night? Should he have convened meetings of his national security officials? I think Republicans particularly will be interested to know the precise timeline. All of this comes at a very challenging moment here in Washington, D.C. Remember, we are just days after the Republicans, supported by Democrats, defenestrated the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Kevin McCarthy. There is no legislation moving on Capitol Hill, and there won't be until a new Speaker is elected. That means that any response from Capitol Hill to some extent is going to be muted because they can't immediately take any kind of legislative action in any meaningful way as a result of all of this, and also complicating matters, much as President Biden in that statement indicated, rock-solid support for Israel's government and its people. Complicating all that is the fact that his relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu has been complex. They are not in any way political and ideological soulmates. The U.S. government under President Biden has been very critical of the proposed judicial reforms and the changes to the independence of the judiciary that Prime Minister Netanyahu has espoused. And, of course, the Biden administration has been critical of settlement activity. But all of that now, I think, will take a backseat as President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu have to deal not just with the next few hours and days, but with what will become massive questions in Israel itself, and also here about why there was no advance intelligence indicating that this was going to happen. I mean, with its echoes of the surprise that took place in 1973, the Yom Kippur War attack, and that took place literally 50 years and 1 day ago. The timing hardly seems coincidental. And even with, to some extent, echoes of the surprise America felt on September the 11th, 2001, after the Al-Qaeda attacks on New York and Washington, I think there are going to be enormous questions, of course, for Israeli intelligence, but no doubt for Western intelligence agencies as well. We have also seen a statement by President Donald Trump, perhaps not surprisingly, suggesting that he had made substantial progress in terms of advancing peace in the Middle East with those Abraham Accords that were signed at the White House in the last few weeks of his administration. In a statement, he says these Hamas attacks are a disgrace and Israel has every right to defend itself with overwhelming force. Sadly, he goes on, American taxpayer dollars helped fund these attacks, which many reports are saying came from the Biden administration. He means the taxpayer dollars, obviously, not the attacks. We brought so much peace to the Middle East through the Abraham Accords, only to see Biden whittle it away at a far more rapid pace than anyone thought possible. Here we go again. That's the end of former President Donald Trump's statement. Now, when he talks about taxpayer dollars, he's talking about humanitarian assistance that the United States has provided to Palestinians in both the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and this Republican contention that that money has gone to fund some of these attacks. I don't think we know yet for a fact that that is what has occurred, but certainly it is a narrative that Republicans are espousing, and it's a reasonable question to ask, given the pattern of corruption that has existed in the Gaza Strip for a very long time. But what that statement by Donald Trump makes absolutely clear is that he's going to use this as an election campaign issue in the United States, and he's going to argue that President Biden has been asleep at the switch with regard to the Middle East, because as we've reported many times in the past on LBC News, you know, President Biden has not sought to make any meaningful overtures to advance peace in the Middle East since he came into office, finding himself, of course, focused on other foreign policy issues. First of all, the botched US military withdrawal from Afghanistan, and then, of course, Russia's war against Ukraine. So complicated days and weeks ahead for the President of the United States, and definitely massive questions beginning to stack up for American intelligence agencies.
Good to speak to you. LBC News Washington correspondent Simon Marks. Thank you very much indeed.
Discover, this is Daniela.
Hi, it's Jennifer Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great, but with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Do you like asparagus and mushroom sorbet? I've got leftovers.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.